All right, we're back. Dynasty Trades in 5. I'm Clay.
Shane.
And I am Mr. Dynasty Leverage. Maybe I'll leverage this gig into a much bigger show sometime. So how much are you going to pay me, Clay?
So I got nothing, bro.
Isn't that the dream, to text Clay one day and be like, bro, I'm out. See,
I got another offer. These are the terms.
I got a offer.
Can you see the tear running down my cheek? I am nothing without you guys. No, if you're new to the channel, welcome. So here at Dynasty Trades in 5, we used to do single player in 5-ish minutes. Not so much anymore. We do 3 different types of shows. We have single player shows. We have just strictly trade shows, and then kind of more strategy shows. And that's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to talk about what should we be doing right now, guys? You know, it's February, 4th, 5th, something like that. What are you doing in your dynasty leagues right now? What's your strategy given where we are on the calendar? You know, value of rookie picks, how they're going to be going up, yada, yada, yada. But first, guys, if you like this channel, subscribe, hit the like, and comment with us. We respond to everything. So, all right, Scott, start us off, buddy.
Yeah, so caveat, anyone that listens has listened in the past. I've mentioned I'm in a lot of leagues. So anybody that's in a ton of leagues, this is maybe going to apply a little bit more. But just generally, I think the thought process will be valuable regardless. But I think we can look back at this past year, the last couple off seasons, and kind of see, you know, where we've been wrong or where we've been maybe surprised at how things have played out. And I think I've identified a couple spots. I think the first spot is the last 2 years, we've really seen the rise of like the elite quarterbacks. And I think if you look at the quarterback landscape right now, it's pretty locked in terms of like the top 8, top 10. We've done some shows talking about quarterback values. You have a couple young guys that are in there that they, you know, if they bust, they're going to fall out. But I think you're pretty stable. So I think that kind of sector of dynasty is pretty much defined. I don't see a lot of change like in the next 6 to 12 months at the high end quarterbacks. And the production has backed that up. I think where we're typically very wrong is outside of that range and trying to forecast, A, who's even going to be starting in the NFL next year. B, how much value do we place on a guy just because he's starting versus how many points can I score at the quarterback position with guys that maybe aren't so desirable. And you look right now in February, why are they not desirable? You know, I did a patron pod for this separate thing, but, you know, you look at a guy like Teddy Bridgewater. The sentiment on Teddy Bridgewater, the arrow is down, down, down. He sucks. He's not good enough for Denver. He's not going to get another job. So he's probably sitting on a lot of rosters, and people are like, well, I'm just praying that he becomes relevant again, so then maybe I can trade him. But they're not even really thinking about, he's just there. He's not a player you're sending out trying to get a pick, because you're probably going to get laughed at in a lot of leagues if you try to send him for a second. People are going to go, no, why would I do that? So I think that range we can exploit. There's a lot of quarterbacks in that range that probably have jobs next year. I'm looking at those, my Matt Ryans, my Baker Mayfields, my Jared Goffs, and literally just pray on the fact that somebody may value them more because they are a quote unquote starter, because they have a little job security. So instead of just trying to sell them, you know, can I make some savvy moves where I trade my Baker Mayfield for what is he worth in picks? We haven't done a Baker Mayfield show, but I would say in a lot of leagues, if you can get like a mid-second for Baker Mayfield, maybe an early second, that's pretty fair. So the move I'm trying to make is, okay, can I get Baker Mayfield and Jameis Winston? Can I get Baker Mayfield for a second and Jameis Winston, or Baker Mayfield in a second and I get Teddy Bridgewater too? Like, I'm trying to do those swaps where I could be right in 6 months and have the starter just like Baker Mayfield, and I probably have the better fantasy producer too. So I think that spot, QB2s in Dynasty, by and large, they're sells because people value them because they have security. And I don't want to pay for security. I want to pay for positional advantage. I want to pay for points. Same with running backs. So it's not, I won't go into as much in depth, but with running backs, same thing. You know, what am I really getting with Josh Jacobs? You know, if I'm getting Josh Jacobs and he is scoring, I don't know, 14 points per game, how replaceable is that as long as I have enough running backs that I can start on a weekly basis? So can you pivot off of Josh Jacobs for a first? Maybe you get mid to late first or something for Josh Jacobs. Get like Rashad Penny thrown back in. Get Chase Edmonds thrown back in. Just a body, and collect those. So I think it's those like below the top 8 or so running backs in Dynasty. I'm okay also pivoting off them as well for maybe a little bit more risk. And it's going to feel uncomfortable. It's going to really feel uncomfortable when you trade away your Carson Wentz for, an early second and Teddy Bridgewater. But the bet is basically Teddy Bridgewater can produce just like Carson Wentz. And I'm just praying on the fact someone else sees that as a little less risky. It's going to feel gross, but I think those type of moves are where you can make some profit right now.
That's good stuff. What do you think, Shane?
Well, one of the things I think Scott hit on is the security and why people like it. I think why people like it, at least this is why I do, or if I do, it's why I do it. It's so I can stop myself from continuing to make trades for the same hole over and over again. So I can stop making trades for all right, I've traded, multiple assets for what I hope is my RB3 that could become my RB2. It does feel good going, well, I got Josh Jacobs. I know no matter what happens, as long as he's healthy, I at least have a running back too. And that's why you end up paying that little bit of a premium. I like to trade within tiers and just pick up extra assets. I mean, we've talked about that before when we did the CD Lamb and T Higgins trades. Jalen Waddle, and I don't know who else do you have in that tier. Maybe Deontay Johnson. Either which way, I don't really care. But any trade, I'll make trades like that where the guy is basically the same guy. His name is just different, and try to get an additional asset thrown in. But I'd still chase the elite quarterbacks. I still think that's where the advantage is in Superflex. Trying to get a Patrick Mahomes and a Lamar Jackson. I don't care how much I have to pay. And then also, we talk about this all the time. It's a simple tactic. I'm not going to do what everyone else is doing because everyone else is doing it, which means I have to do what everyone else is doing, but better than them. I'm confident in myself. I'm just not that confident. I'm not confident that I'm going to outguess absolutely everyone that's swimming in the same direction. I'm going to lots of times go the other way. Like, was that trout, salmon, whichever one swim the wrong way? I'm going to go do that while everyone's swimming downstream, upstream, whatever stream they're swimming, I'll go the other way. And, that might be risky. I might make some moves that look a little scary, but I'm okay with that. Because, again, if there's only two of us that are trying one path, I like my chances of winning through that path as opposed to, 10 of us all traveling the same way. And then it being a race to who's the smartest.
Okay, so talk to me about pick values. Again, it's early February, so picks are going up, even though this 2022 class is kind of getting trashed, right? Tell me your strategy around picks, because we always get questions: should I trade this pick for this older running back? And it's like, no. If anything, this is sell RB season, and buy picks or trade for picks. What's your strategy with picks these days? Are you trying to wait as long as you can? Obviously, we'll take good value if a good trade comes to us, right? We'll give up a 101 if we're getting the right kind of value. But what are you doing with picks? What's your strategy with that, Scott?
Yeah, so with 22 picks, I think there's two things that are going to impact the value of them. I think first, most of the time picks accrue in value as we get closer to the draft. After the combine, right before the NFL draft, right after the draft, you kind of see values shifting points. And you would say, okay, well, why would I want to sell them now when a lot of that's up in the air? I do think this year it's a little riskier for two reasons. One, the whole community is on the 23 picks. So there's a lot of people that are kind of already going, well, I don't really care what happens with the 22 picks. If I have them, I have them. If I don't, I don't. I'm not going to go and seek them out until they're on the clock and it's the player that I want. I'm not really interested in getting as many as I can or getting as many in this range. And then I think the other thing is what really drives the value of picks up. And the reason why you hold them until after the draft is we're pretty good at forecasting wide receivers. More often than not, we can pretty much say, hey, there's going to be 3, 4, 5, 6 receivers that go in this range. And a lot of times we can already match which ones there's going to be and which ones have the profiles that we already like. So it's just as simple as getting the checkbox of the draft capital. We also don't look at receivers and say, okay, this was the best receiver prospect. He went to the worst landing spot, so he sucks. I don't want him. You may push him down a little bit, but they don't tend to move as much. I think what really captures the pick values and why you want to hold on to him is the running back that's going to get the draft capital and land in the smash spot that everyone loves, or the quarterback that goes to the team that has a bunch of weapons, that has a great offensive coordinator, and you're like, boom, I'm all in. I'm a little hesitant to think I want to bet on that even happening maybe once or twice this year. Yep. We may get a draft class where almost all the running backs and quarterbacks kind of are strikeouts. And then you may be holding the 103 where we thought the tier break might be the 107, 108 before. It's now the 104. And so you should have probably sold that 103 or 104 a while back because you could have got more. So I think there's much more risk of those pick values falling this year and the tiers falling back to where it's like, hey, if I have the 107 or the 112, there's no difference. So I think there's a little more risk in holding the picks this year. So that's why I'm so aggressive. And we've talked about it on this show, holding that line. If you can get the 23 first for the 107 or even the 106, like you have to consider that given what could happen over the next couple of months. And then I'll let Shane go, but I wanted to hit on one thing Shane said about doing what everybody else is doing. I've kind of been ahead of the game on some stuff the last 2 years, but I can't go back to that now. A lot of people are doing the same stuff. A lot of people are fading running backs. A lot of people are chasing elite quarterbacks. A lot of people are punting tight ends unless it's a super heavy premium. And then also a lot of people are spot on with roster construction. Like, give me as many good receivers as I can. Then I'm going to load up on backups at running back, backups on quarterbacks. If I only have like maybe 1 or 2 quarterbacks on my roster, I'm fine going the backup route too. But you can't do that if 10 other people in your league are doing it. Shane hit it perfectly. I don't want to have to outpick you. Pick the guy that doesn't get hurt. Pick the guy that has the breakout season. When you're trying to do that in like a March or February startup, that's a losing bet. I'd much rather just say, you know what? I'll draft 4 running backs in the startup, and I'll be the guy that has 4 top 6 running backs, and we'll see if I can win that way. And that's why I play in a lot of leagues. So Shane.
Picks again. I never have a hard and fast rule with anything. I mean, even though I'm not in as many leagues as Scott anymore, but I'm still in a lot of leagues, 35. But even in that instance, I don't. Yeah, I know it feels like a lot. It doesn't feel like a lot now. It feels like a little bit, but whatever. It used to be more. I don't have hard and fast rules with anything. Just I've had trades last week where I've used picks from this class and traded them away to get Justin Herbert. I've had trades where I've, taken on picks to trade away players from this year. If I'm going to acquire any of the picks, it needs to be in the top 5 because I want either the running back 1 or the wide receiver 1. And I don't think I have a shot at that outside of probably 6 or 7. Because, again, it's not going to be a year where there's 5 quarterbacks going off at the top of the board. And if there is, just thank your lucky stars and let everyone else do that. And you take the positional players. I think that I'm fine with accruing a bunch of 2022 picks. We know the story. It's February right now. And I've already started to see the turn where people started, I think, 3 months ago, this class was terrible. Then it was sneaky good. Now it's a little better than we thought. By the time this draft rolls around, people are going to be telling you, well, it's almost as good as last year, except for the quarterbacks. And I don't know if that's true or not, but I know that that's going to be the consensus by the time the draft hits. So these picks are going to be more valuable then than they are now.
Well, let me add this real quick with the picks. If you're in, this is a must if you're in more than a dozen leagues. Okay, so we're talking to a lot of people that probably watch the videos and are on the channel. So if you're in 1 or 2 leagues, then fine, it's not as applicable. But if you're in like more than 10 or 12 leagues, I think you really have to sniff out which leagues you can still get the 23 first. Where are they a little bit softer versus not? Because I've seen some leagues where, whether it's people that listen to me or listen to other people or are just, they kind of run in the same circles that we do. You can't get the 23 picks. There is no, hey, I'll give you my 106 for a 23 first. Like that's not even getting accepted. So those leagues, it actually makes some sense. If you're in 15 leagues, the ones you can get the 23 picks, still get them. It's okay to pay close to the market price for them. But if you can't, and you're in a league where it's like, dude, I just offered you the 104 and you won't trade me your 23 first and second. Clearly they're overvaluing the 23 picks there. So maybe you go the other way. Maybe that's a league where you say, you know what? I wait till the rollover and I add a 24 first. I start collecting those. I maybe collect all the 22 picks because everyone else is fading them in this league and they want the 23. So I think that's a way you can differentiate yourself, not with your dynasty roster, but with your picks. Like Shane said, like if you're just going to give away the 22 picks, there may be some deals where I'm even in leagues like that where I have a 23 first. And someone goes, dude, I'll give you the 107 and the 109 on the clock. And I'm like, well, I don't want to do that, but I know the 23 picks are not going to move anymore in this league. So maybe that's the type of league where I pivot the other way. And I just go without a 23 first in that league, which sounds like blasphemy now, the way that I talk. But I think there's some merit in doing that once they reach a certain peak. And they're close to the peak value at this point.
Yeah, another thing I try to do too is to always focus on not worrying about my starting lineup right now, right? It's always trade for value. I've got a league where I love my team and I look at it and it's DeAndre Swift, sure, is my RB1, but then I've got Devonta Foreman still sitting in there, or Deonta Foreman, or, and then Tony Pollard's on that bench, Alexander Madison. There's nobody else on that roster, but I've got 23 firsts. I've got plenty of assets that I can move around to be able to get an RB. It's February, trade for value. Don't worry about a starting roster right now.
In general, you want to be acquiring assets right now. Like you said, you don't really want to worry about names. You just want assets. You worry about names. The only thing you worry about names is what value is attached to them in the market. It doesn't matter if I like CeeDee Lamb or T Higgins better. It really doesn't. It matters what the market likes. That's the player I want to move on.
More thing is we're coming up to NFL, the new league year. And we've seen the last couple of years, I think maybe it was because of COVID, a lot more people paying attention at home, watching this. But the last couple of years, like NFL free agency itself has been a big event. Like, and Dynasty, I saw a lot of leagues explode last year in activity just during free agency, like people signing, this team rebuilding their offensive line, this team adding this quarterback or whatever. Like, I think you can use that also as, quite honestly, if we're talking about players that got signed in free agency, like NFL free agency, typically you want to sell on that news more often than not, because it's probably not that there's not good players, but rarely is there difference-making players in Dynasty that are actually changing hands in the NFL, maybe a quarterback or two. But this kind of trend in Dynasty where people are just not interested in a lot of players. Like most of the players, like I like having them, but I'm not going to go out and try to trade for them. There's like much less conviction on players, and it's a lot more process players, people that want to collect picks, people that want to, trade 3-for-1s and get the stud. Like it's really hard to move like random players unless they have some sort of news. So use that to your advantage in free agency.
Yeah, I was just about to bring up something along those lines is the timing with free agency and these wide receivers and players who are going to be getting new contracts. You start noticing that you're getting a lot of offers for your Juju or your Allen Robinson, right? So what do you think about like the timing of those moves, buying players before they get a contract? So then either, hey, you like his spot and you hold him, or there's my opportunity to sell, right? There's the value bump. I want to gobble that guy up. I don't even like him, but I know he's going to get a value bump if he goes anywhere and gets any money, and then I'm going to sell him. What are your thoughts there?
Here's the problem. People sending me offers now for Juju Smith-Schuster. Now they're sending them to me. Go screw yourself. I just sat on Juju Smith-Schuster after another bad season. What am I trading him for? If you're giving me a first, if you're paying above market, all yours. If you're offering me a second, no, I've already went through the risk period. Like what could go worse than what I had from the last 2 years of Juju? He gives me no production. All right. I struck out. That's fine. I already did that, but he's going to sign with, like you said, he's going to sign somewhere. When he signs somewhere, doesn't matter where he signs, there's going to be that narrative for at least 8 hours. Twitter moves quick now, quick news cycle. But for at least 8 hours, we're going to talk about Juju and why this is such a great landing spot. Literally does not matter where he lands. Jacksonville. I would like him in Jacksonville. Jacksonville, Kansas City, Philadelphia. It doesn't matter. Pittsburgh. Even if he comes back to Pittsburgh, we're going to talk ourselves into why that's a better situation this year than it was last year. You should have traded for those guys prior to now. Yep. If someone's going to come at you for them, and again, unless it's above market value, you've already wrote out the worst part of this. Just hold on to them. I don't care if they don't hit. You've already – a second isn't enough to move off of these guys. A second isn't a needle mover when a guy like Juju or even Allen Robinson in their range of outcomes, and I'm not saying it's super likely, but in their range of outcomes are top 15 wide receiver seasons.
Remember what it felt like to have Juju that went down on your team in October, or you had DJ Chark that went down, and trying to get anything, any points for him during the season was a struggle. You know what I mean? I was sending out offers, and I'm big. If it's like a wide receiver 3 that gets hurt, I'm big. And hey, during the season, give me another wide receiver 3. I don't care who it is. It's such a nondescript position that I'll trade you Juju for something else. But I have noticed that, Shane, where it's like now people will buy Juju. They want to buy Juju for the 208. They want to buy DJ Chark because he could be, Doug Peterson's ex-receiver now. Like, people are interested in him again. I'm like, dude, you You said I don't like Juju Smith-Schuster during the season when I tried to trade him to you after I lost him. Now you like him again? It's like everyone could have seen the situation coming. So just remember that for next year. We're going to still be doing this during the season. Like, remember when the guy goes out for the year, try to find that sweet spot. Because I don't think you could have just bought every share of Juju during the year and you didn't want to give up you're not giving up like Hunter Renfrow that's scoring 16 points a game for Juju during the year, right?
Yeah.
But there's a sweet spot where you could have probably bought him. I wasn't aggressive enough buying these injured receivers, and I've seen it this year where it's like, now everyone wants to buy him now. Of course they do.
It's the end of the show. Appreciate you. Stick around for more episodes. We're gonna have a bunch more content coming. Hit the subscribe, hit the like if you haven't already.